My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you're here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. We're approaching the feast of the Holy Spirit, the feast of Pentecost. And as you might have realized by now, in these last days we have been meditating on the different gifts of the Holy Spirit in preparation for this great feast. And being honest with you, listener, you usually don't know what happens behind the scenes and preparing these meditations, but I'm going to unveil some of our secrets that came up a few weeks ago. This idea of preparing special meditations with the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And so the organizer sent out a message to all the priests that prepare these meditations, asking which gift would you like to prepare? And as I was reading the list of gifts, immediately I thought to myself, I have to preach on fortitude. If you've been following some of my meditations, you must have realized by now that I consider myself a triathlete or an ultra marathoner, and I've done an Ironman and an ultra marathon and other races. So in my mind, I thought, well, it makes sense that I can preach on fortitude because it takes a lot of fortitude to run these long, hard races. Clearly, this meditation is not on humility. That's not my favorite virtue, as you can imagine. But when I said this to the rest of the group, and I said, hey, I think I should preach on fortitude, immediately everyone started making fun of me, of course. But I defended my position with great fortitude. Obviously, there is a lot of this virtue in running a long race like an Ironman or an ultra marathon. There's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of overcoming obstacles. And if we go back to the definition given of this virtue, it says that it allows us to overcome fear and to remain steady in our will in the face of all obstacles, physical and spiritual. And obviously, there are many obstacles in running a long race and preparing for a long race. Lack of time, injuries, tiredness, fatigue. And you need to overcome all that in order to call yourself an Ironman, an ultramarathoner. But what I wanted to share with you, and this is the reason why I thought I should preach on this, is because many times when I tell people that I've done an Ironman or that I do ultramarathons, people look at me and say, okay, well, you're made out of a different stuff. Maybe it's in your genes, which obviously it is because my dad runs Ironmans as well. But immediately they put you like in a different category. Say, okay, you do those kind of things, you're crazy, you're really fit, but I could never do it. That's what people tend to think immediately. It's never like something, well, hey, that's interesting. That's something maybe I could do. Immediately they put you in a different category. Okay, that's something you do. Great, I'm happy for you. I would never be able to do that because I'm too lazy, because I'm too weak, because I can't train that much, because I don't have time. And immediately it's all these different obstacles that come up that make it in their minds impossible for them to run a race like this. And then I find like these people, and maybe you're one of them, maybe not, immediately like put themselves out of competition. It's not even a possibility. The obstacles are so unsurmountable that they don't even try. And it's not like you need to try to run an Ironman or an ultramarathon. There's no need. And perfectly fine if you never want to do that. But when it comes to sanctity, something similar can happen. And maybe immediately as we listen to the word sanctity, the same arguments come up in our minds, the same arguments as when we hear Ironman or ultramarathon. Well, that's impossible. That's for people that are on a whole different league, right? I'm full of weaknesses, I'm lazy, I'm not that holy, I got a difficult situation, man, there's so many obstacles in my life. I mean, I'll try to be kind of good. I'll try not to kill anybody. I try not to commit too many mortal sins. Try to go to confession as often as I can. But being a saint, that sounds like something impossible. And when we meet people that are wanting to be saints, trying to be saints, we think they're made out of different stuff than we are, that they're in a different category. And mentally, immediately, we put ourselves out of the race. We justify ourselves in the fact that, well, I'm not that strong. I don't have fortitude. And the reality is, very much like in the Ironman, to be honest with you, I think anybody can run an Ironman. I mean, there's people in their 80s that run Ironmans. There's people that don't have legs that have run Ironmans. I think anybody can run. It's a matter of working hard and preparing yourself. And in the same way, sanctity, with the grace of God, and we have the grace of God, is possible. That is why this is a gift of the Holy Spirit. Fortitude is a gift. And it's important that we all kind of push out of our minds or hearts the temptation of thinking that I'm not strong enough. I cannot overcome fear. I cannot remain steady in the face of obstacles. There are too many things against me wanting to be a saint. Immediately, push that out. It's a temptation of the devil. Yes, you're weak. Yes, there are difficulties. Yes, being a saint is a very difficult thing. But that's why we have the Holy Spirit. Why do you think God sent the Holy Spirit to the apostles? Because they were weak, they were afraid. They were faced with many really difficult obstacles. But when the Holy Spirit came on Pentecost, they were filled with that gift of fortitude, and they went out and they overcame all the obstacles on their own. No, with the grace of God. But we have the same grace. We have the same Holy Spirit that will come upon us and give us the virtue of fortitude if we ask for it. So as we approach the feast of Pentecost, let us ask the Holy Spirit for all the gifts that He can bring to us. But specifically, since this is my meditation, for the gift of fortitude, Holy Spirit, come to us, bring us this virtue of fortitude so that we can truly overcome fear, so that we can remain steady in our will in the face of all obstacles, knowing that God will be there to be our strength. And that's where our strength comes from, right? Not from being super cool or superheroes, but because we are sons and daughters of God, and He will strengthen us, and He wants us to be saints, so He will sanctify us, and He will send us the Holy Spirit, who will sanctify us. There are no excuses. We can all be strong. We might not all be Iron Men, no need, but we can all certainly, hopefully, we will all end up being saints. Let us ask for this virtue. Let us trust in the grace of the Holy Spirit. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.